Conversations That Matter is a partner program for the Centre for Dialogue at Simon Fraser University. The production of this program is made possible thanks to the support of the following and viewers like you.
Kirsten Sutton, welcome. Thanks for joining me. I've been interested in having this conversation with you for quite some time because when I look at the changing landscape of the workplace, we collectively have to start saying, you can't just say, well, I'm only going to have, the purebred 100%, like you're perfect as a human being, because life isn't like that. Mm-hmm. And so are companies now starting to recognize that and create employment policies that say, we want you to come and work with us, no matter what your situation is in life, because we recognize that you reflect the world that we live in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Diversity is the fabric of the world we live in, and it's certainly the fabric of the customers that we build and sell to. So you need your organization to reflect that. You have to have diversity at the table, and that is in many fashions. So we definitely focus on that fully. We have a diversity inclusion office. We have 4 pillars that we follow for that office, and we certainly take this very seriously.
When you talk about diversity, what do you mean? Like, how do we define exactly what diversity is? Because it's not just gender or the fact that the color of your skin might be different.
Right, we talk about it in 2 buckets, diversity and inclusion. So diversity is the first thought that we said. It's really thinking about, you have to have many ideas at the table, many different perspectives to reflect what we're doing in the world and to reflect the people that we're working with and for. Inclusion is making sure that being part of that environment is available to everybody, so that we are thinking about practices to make sure there's gender parity, make sure that anybody differently abled is able to succeed in our environment. So inclusion and diversity are separate, but they come for us together.
So when we talk about disability, there's a number of people who go, oh, okay, so you have mobility challenges. I can understand that. Let's create a workplace that accommodates what your needs are, because we can see that you still have all of those mental capabilities that allow you to be a strong contributor. Right. But in your case, you go further than that.
Well, we identified very early on that there is certainly a gap in the tech field right now for talent. And there is so many jobs and not enough people to fill them. We met a lovely man at Davos several years ago named Torkil Sanna from Specialisterna, and he started an organization where he wanted folks on the autism spectrum to be gainfully employed in the tech sector. It was a moment in time where we thought, we need talent. He was very sure that that was talent that we should tap into, and that's when it all started.
Okay, but was it like a light bulb on, oh yes, of course, let's do that, or did you have to go through a change in the way that you started to think about people who are living somewhere on the autism spectrum?
Well, the good news is it was a little bit of both. It was a light bulb because it was a moment where we said, we hadn't really focused on that. We hadn't thought of that. It's an untapped, amazing set of resources that are perfect for our environment. But then, yeah, there was a lot to do to really to execute on that and make it happen.
So is this some kind of token program, or is this something that's only happening in Vancouver? Like, how much of your company is committed to actually saying, okay, here's our program and here's how we're going to make that unfold?
Yeah, light bulb on, a little discussion with Torkil and Specialisterna to find out really what would be involved, and then it was a commitment. So in 2012, we made the commitment that by 2020, we would have 1% of our global workforce hired that are on the autism spectrum.
So that's 1% of how many people?
At that time, it was 65,000.
But now?
85,000. So we're still targeting the 650 individuals. But yeah, we'll continue on that path until such time as we run out of great talent to find.
And this is a global strategy?
Global strategy. Now, Canada was fortunate we get to be a pilot. We were one of the first countries to roll it out.
Okay, so tell me how you rolled that out. What were the things that you needed to do to start to be able to make that a reality?
So knowing that we had jobs that we needed to fill, and we knew there was talent out there that had the special skills. I mean, definitely they're waiting for us. The first thing was to really get managers on board to say, yes, we have open roles, and we want folks on this program to be part of that. That was step one.
Was there some resistance there?
I wouldn't say the usual resistance comes in, the fear of the unknown, the how will this affect my team? Will we slow down delivery? Well, we're trying to figure out how to do this. And who's going to pay for this talent? Is it my headcount or is it coming from a central budget? These are usual manager
and those are normal questions
right?
because the performance of their team reflects on the manager.
Right.
And so they have to take that into consideration and say, okay, will this work for me?
Right.
So you manage to, obviously, of course, you manage to get that out of the way. Next step, what do you do then?
So now you have to put up the job profiles. So first thing we learn very quickly is the way our profiles are set up, our job postings, job descriptions, are not friendly for everyone. They're not friendly for women sometimes. They're not friendly, certainly for folks on the autism spectrum. If you think about...
Give me an example of how does that manifest itself where it doesn't appear to be friendly?
So if you look through just a generic job description, it'll say, hey, do you want to work at a great company that's doing great things? Your job, we need skills in A, B, and C, those are all very tactical and very specific. And then it gets into the hard part. Want to be able to work in teams, collaborate well, understand a team environment, lead team, things that are really much on the social aspect is where they get tripped up.
I got to get you to hang on for just a second while we take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back.
Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program.
So I had Maria Clave from Harvey Mudd College, and you know
yes,
who Maria is, right?
Yes.
And we were talking about how do we work towards increasing the number of women who choose computing sciences as a profession. And she pointed out the culture itself keeps people who are different than the predominant group right now out. So, and what we're talking about are primarily young men, mostly Caucasian, who are, what we would call geeks at one time. Like they are fascinated by the technology and the science that they're working in, and you can feel intimidated by that. So how do you start to address that?
Well, I think this is a bit different, right? That we're talking about the skills that folks on the autism spectrum uniquely have are actually skills that are exactly what all of our guys and girls are succeeding with inside of the tech industry. Their ability to learn visually, recognize patterns, to be able to sit to task and focus on something for long periods of time. Their low tolerance to errors, right? And really, those are things that a computer programmer, for sure, that's their key assets, right? Yeah. So it's not that they didn't fit into the environment so much. It's just that they didn't get through the door because that team building, that fit interview that you do would shut it down.
So how do you address that?
Because
we want other people to learn from your experience.
We've completely changed the interview process. Which is, I think, the most interesting part. So job description right away, we changed it so that it doesn't have some of these gotchas in it. Next thing is the interview process is not bring somebody in a room with a panel of people and ask them, if you were in this situation, how would you handle it? Because that's not going to work. What we do is we actually bring them in and put them to work. Now it's more of a fun work environment. They do Lego Mindstorm. So they actually take Lego, they build things, they program robots, and we watch how they do that. We watch how they learn, we watch how they approach it. Do they read the manual? Do they do it? Do they just jump in and try it out? Do they ask for help? Do they talk to people? We watch them at work instead of asking them how they would work.
So what do you learn from that? Because I can feel myself have a reaction saying, oh, so you're giving them kind of like a play process to go through the application. But I sense that it's a little more sophisticated than that. Yeah,
so they've done a pretty significant profile on the individual to determine should they come in even to do this part of the process. And so when they get there, they have some ideas on how they may function in a team environment. Because at the end of the day, they are coming into a team. And as much as we recognize that may be their biggest challenge, it is a reality. So we have to see how that's going to work. And a big part of how you're going to work on a team is just how you approach anything that you do. So they're really assessing how they work in that. And you just don't get that in a one-to-one just speaking interview. So they're really spending the time to build out a profile for the individuals that are coming through that will then go to the manager, and the manager will say, this looks like somebody I think is a good fit for the team.
So you say you bring them in, but how challenging has it been for you to reach out to a community that I think traditionally has said, well, nobody's going to be interested in me, because my experience is the moment they realize that I'm somewhere on the autism spectrum, I get shut down.
Yeah.
And who wants to put themselves out there only to be denied again?
Right, very good question. Critical success factor for us is to have social partners in the local markets where we're servicing this program. So we don't reach out SAP directly to those communities. We go through companies like Open Door Group and through the BC government jobs programs, things like that, where these folks are identified and they have a safe environment that they're already connected to. Those folks bring the people forward that seem suitable for our environment, take them into this Lego Mindstorm, carry them through to finish the profile, and then take them through the next 3 steps in the process.
Okay. It's a long process, and I guess it's designed to work for the candidate and also for the company.
Yeah.
So you go through the Lego play process. Where do you go from there?
So first step, you now know their skills. Second step, you know now how they work. Next is, if you determined between those two that they should carry forward, then we start doing actual training about SAP. So they've made it through the sort of first 2 gates. Now it's learn about SAP. If you're going to work here, here's what it's going to look like. Here are the different roles that are open for this cohort of the program. You know, what do you think about these roles? And really spend time. Now it's real training.
But you would do that with any potential candidate, wouldn't you?
Not to this extent, because at this point, candidate, we haven't actually hired them or even offered them a role. That kind of onboarding and that we do is after somebody's been offered a role who's not on this program. This is something we would do beforehand. Again, continuing to assess if the environment is going to work for them and if they want to be there. Most important, their biggest success factor is if they have the motivation, they'll work through the challenges that they're going to have collectively with their mentors and their teammates.
This is our second break. We'll be back in a moment.
Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program.
From there, there's another couple of steps before you finally say, okay, here's your start date, here's your salary, here's who you report to.
Right.
Which, as I understand it, are the 3 things that you need to have to know that you actually have a job.
Yes, yes. So they come in for this training program, and this is when they're on, they're actually being paid at this point, coming in as contractors in the training program. At the end of the training program, a very fulsome profile is completed for each individual, which is something you don't ever get with any
What
other
does that
candidate.
mean, a fulsome profile?
So it included the original stuff on what are their skills, you know, what's their education, what are they coming in with. It includes the information from the Lego Mindstorm, and now it includes more information on how they fared through the indoctrination training part. I hate the word indoctrination. I shouldn't use that one. But
Familiarization.
our
maybe,
SAP training part. So go through that part. Now you have like an amazing profile on that individual. They have come forward and said, of the roles that are open, I like A, B, and C. And then the managers who are hiring look at these profiles and say, of the jobs that I have open, I like candidate C, D, and E, or whatever it may be. Then the sort of dating service happens. They get matched up and they get assigned to a team.
So I understand how that works for the company. How does this process also help to aid somebody who is, you know, living with autism? Because frequently they can, it's my understanding, can be overwhelmed by processes and retract. So from a company perspective, you're making sure that everything is going to work so that it works for the company, but how does this process also work for that potential employee?
I know it sounds like a lot of steps and feels very process heavy, and that would be difficult. It's set up to make it, to ease the individual into the organization. So very slowly and carefully, at the first step, you know, are you interested? What are you excited about? What have you wanted to do and haven't been able to do? Getting that kind of information. And those are discussions that they can do and have done for years, probably with whatever support group they're involved with. The second step, bringing them in, you know, it is a fun exercise. They are playing, right? So it's not threatening. It's not something where they feel like, oh, I'm back at SAP and now I'm doing another thing and I'm exhausted, I can't do it. They're going to notice that I don't fit and I've run away. It's really designed to ease them in so that when we come to the point to say, which role would you like, they really want to put their hand up for a role. They really want to do it. So it's really designed to ease them in. And at this point, it's been a couple of months. So you've had 2 months now of time to start to feel your way into SAP.
Getting to know one another.
Right, and that's a very different, again, you hire somebody off of the street that is not in this program. I mean, you meet them once, twice, they might have a panel interview, their start, their day, they're trying to find their desk, their laptop. I mean, you're into the fire. This is not the process here for these individuals. We want to make sure they come in slowly, ease in, and by the time they start, they're feeling as comfortable as humanly possible walking through the door.
So how many people do you have in this program now working for the company here in Vancouver?
Here in Vancouver, we have 13 people.
Wow.
Yep. Which is, we have 1,300, so we're at 1%.
You're at the 1%.
Yeah.
No, we didn't touch on why 1%. Why 1%?
The studies show that globally that's the average of people that are on the spectrum within the global population. So, I mean, it's somewhere in 1 in 68, they say, are on the spectrum.
This is incredibly fascinating, and I want to know more, and I applaud what you're doing, but we got to take one last break. Just hang on for a moment. We'll be right back.
Conversations That Matter is a not-for-profit program made possible thanks to the charitable support of the following and from viewers like you. Please visit conversationsthatmatter.tv and help us to continue to produce this program.
So I can look at this program and go, well, aren't you wonderful people? You extended your heart out to people who traditionally are underemployed. But is there a business case, and how have you benefited from this program?
Yeah, we could talk for hours about this. I mean, it is
No,
not...
we only have 22 and a half minutes.
It is not a charitable act. This is not a philanthropic endeavor. We have open roles that we can't fill. Folks on the spectrum are absolutely suited for these roles, and they're not getting employed. I mean, it's like a triple whammy, a perfect storm of where we need to use this for our benefit. So we're filling roles with people that are amazing talents. We've had folks start first day in, say, a software testing role, find a bug in the software that's been there for 15 years. Nobody else has found it.
First day?
First day.
And is that because of this visual, unique ability to concentrate so intensely that they can pick up patterns and say, there's something not right there?
Yeah, I mean, they truly, I mean, because they think differently, learn differently, see things differently, they notice things that nobody else does, right? And that is an asset. That's why diverse teams matter, right? You need people that are going to notice different things.
And I guess also then in the development of new products, they are bringing a new perspective as well. So how does that help you out?
Well, I think in the actual product itself, again, their diversity of thought, how they would use the product, how they would interact with it from a user experience perspective, and even from a process perspective inside of development, they rethink, well, why are you doing this? They will be very open with you. You'll say, here's how we're going to proceed, and they'll say, well, why are you doing step 2 and 4? Really? You could just do 1 and 5 and we'd be done. And you're like, oh, okay.
Right, thank you very much, yeah.
See, I'd never thought of that, never seen that, right? So they help us in our processes, they help us in our products, but more importantly, they help us with the culture and the environment. I mean, you cannot speak in nuance, you cannot talk, sarcasm does not register. I mean, they cannot read between the lines for the most part. So you have to be direct in your communication. Your instructions have to be clear. And that's something that we've sort of forgotten how to do. We kind of expect people to fill in all those blanks.
So you invited me to come down and meet some of these people.
Did.
And the thing that struck me, and I have not forgotten it at all, like it's with me ever present, is how enriching I can see that experience is for them. Like, they were beaming.
Yes.
And clearly I can see that they go, I can come to work at 4 o'clock in the morning and work right through till 11 o'clock at night if I want to. And most people would be going, I don't want to do that. But you could see that there was enthusiasm around this. What is the overall benefit to the people that you've now had on staff that you can see manifesting itself in the quality of their life and in their own self-esteem?
Well, you saw 3 of the guys in the program that have been here for 2 years. So
Yeah.
they're really, far into their journey. And when they started, I really wish you could have done it before and after and seen them 2 years ago. I mean, they came in, unsure of everything, not even looking at people when they were, in the team environment, very shy, the social activities they wouldn't participate in, all of those things, right? They had been shunned for different reasons, for the wrong reasons, for years, and never felt accepted. And the amount of acceptance that comes with this program for someone who's not felt accepted is overwhelming, I think, for most of them. And they just, for the first little while, they just can't believe it, right? They're just, again, overwhelmed. But as the time goes on and they realize, I need to really embrace this, right? Because I'm being so accepted. They don't know what to do with it. They embrace it and they grow. So some of them have started from, I can't ask a question, I'm not even going to look at you, to one of the guys now comes to every one of our big employee meetings, puts his hand up and asks the question. Every single meeting now. And a very well articulated, and he speaks up question. And I literally want to just start crying every time he asks a question, because that is not the man that walked through the door 2 years ago. It is outstanding.
So, I could see it. I could see these guys were like just beaming.
Oh, yeah.
There's a tendency, though, to say, okay, so we're going to hire you to do this, and that's what you're going to be doing for the rest of your career, and they're probably going to be like the most loyal employee that you can imagine. But what's the opportunity for growth within the organization for them as well?
Well, we treat them as any other employee. They're paid like everybody else. They are managed like everybody else. Now, they do have an extra coach that others may not have. Okay, some of them really do have, things that we need to be accounting for, right? They may have issues with when they come to work, or accommodations that need to be made for certain things. But all in all, exactly like anybody else. So we really, from the day one, instill the idea that your job can change. That's what software is like. And that you can move on to something else. And we put them into a career path with their potential and their performance, and we treat them as others. So they have every same opportunity to move through the ranks into different roles and different opportunities as everybody else.
It's a tremendous program, and I think that it validates the fact that the world in which we live and work in has to make accommodations for everybody.
Correct.
Because when everybody is given an opportunity, this is a big thing for me, when everybody's given the opportunity to realize their full potential, we all benefit.
Absolutely. And the abilities these individuals bring are, it shouldn't be in question. You shouldn't wonder, why should I do this? You should wonder, why have I not done this yet?
Yeah, but it takes sometimes somebody, as happened with SAP, to open the door and say, have you looked down this hallway?
Yeah.
And hopefully through this conversation, we're able to do that a little bit. Thank you very much for
Thank you,
coming in
Stu.
and having this discussion with me.
It was lovely to be here. Thank you.